One thing's for sure, they don't call it onion soup for nothing. Now we're going to need enough sliced bulbage to fill that skillet all the way to the top. We're talking 8, maybe 10 onions. Now you can use yellow onions, you can use red onions, or you can even mix and match. It's up to you. But whatever you do, don't skimp on the numbers. Just take a little bit off of both ends of the onion and then slice it in half from pole to pole. Then you should be able to just reach under the skin with your blade and peel it off in maybe 1 or 2 pieces, like that. Now get all the onions prepped to this point and leave them cut side down on the board. Otherwise, in a few minutes, the tear level will be right up there with the scene where they lock up Dumbo's mom. Anyway, you could cut these with a V-slicer, or you could even use a food processor. But then you'd end up with rounds, which hang off a spoon in the finished soup, kind of like seaweed. So what we want is little half moons. The trick is to think slice, not chop. It only takes 3 tablespoons of butter to send this heap on its way to soupdom. That and having our electric skillet set for 250 degrees. Now, as soon as the butter starts to melt, just kind of swirl it around a little bit and then load them in. Just pile the onions in, but alternate every now and then with about a teaspoon of kosher salt. The salt's actually going to pull moisture out of the onions, which will help them to caramelize faster. And don't try to stir this mass or you'll just end up with a mess. Besides, in about 45 minutes to an hour, all of this is going to reduce down into just a few cups. And as they reduce, the moisture is going to be leaving, so the sugar is going to concentrate further and further, which means they're going to be a lot more likely to burn. Let them. Cool, huh? Well, Mount Onion there is reduced to a shadow of its former self. But the onions are completely caramelized now. You can see the mahogany color and the aroma, well, it smells good. Now, add enough white wine just to cover. I like to use Gewürztraminer, but a Chardonnay would be fine too. And then crank the heat all the way up. Now, this is a technique you see a lot in classic sauce making. The wine will cook down, well, almost to a syrup really, and intensify in flavor. It won't take long. 5-10 minutes tops. Now, time for the final 3 liquids. We have 10 ounces of beef consommé. It's a little chunky, that's from gelatin, that's good. We're going to follow that with 10 ounces of either vegetable or chicken broth. And then finally, 10 ounces of apple cider, filtered or unfiltered, doesn't matter. Now, what we need is a bouquet garni. That's basically a fancy way to say a bunch of herbs tied together with a string. Any fresh herb will do. I like a little thyme, parsley, maybe a bay leaf. Keep it simple. In it goes, stir, and then bring everything down to a simmer for 20 minutes. Preheat your oven to broil and set the top rack so that it's about 6 inches from the hot stuff. Now you're going to need oven-proof bowls, or better yet, crocks. I picked these up for a song at a restaurant supply store, just so I could make French onion soup. Now before you buy or bake any bread, make sure that the slices are going to be wide enough to span the mouth of the crock. That way, you can just kind of punch out rounds. Bingo! Instant crouton. Just pop these under the broiler for about 30 seconds. Time flies. Speaking of time, it's been 15 minutes. Time to taste and think about our soup a little bit. Ah, fragrant. Tastes good too, but it could use something. I don't know, a little brightness, a little cognac, that would be good too. Kind of a French bistro thing. Anytime you cook with alcohol, you should always let it cook just for a moment to soften the edges. Perfect. Now, to assemble our masterpiece, first thing we want to do is ladle it into the crocks, but only until we get about 1 inch from the edge. We've got to leave room for the lid. Then take one of the croutons and make sure that you put the toasted edge down onto the soup. Then it's just a matter of sprinkling on lots of cheese. Now I prefer a 1-2 punch, kind of a combination of grated Parmesan and maybe a smooth melting cheese like Fontina. If you like the stringy stuff, go with mozzarella, but try grating it with a little bit of lemon juice first. The acid will keep those proteins from making those long, nasty strings. Once you've got it built, under the broiler for a minute, 2 tops. You want to melt the cheese, not brown it. This might not be pretty to watch, but this is how you eat French onion soup. The important thing is to get a bite of cheese toast with every spoonful. Ah. Like that.